All right, welcome back for another episode of Gaming Gold. This is the video series where I talk about those games that you should be aware of when you're out there wandering around, whether you be at a flea market, old GameStop, any sort of place where you can find used or old games. These are some games that might actually be more and more valuable than you might expect. This week out, I'm actually going to focus specifically in on PlayStation 1 games. So we're looking at CDs alone, CDs in the case, or by God, if you're lucky enough to find a sealed copy, I'll give you pricing on those as well. But even loose, some of these games are very, very worth your while to know about and keep your eye out for when you're out there, checking out tables that have old video games and CDs, etc. on them. Like, you never know what you might find when you're out there shopping. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this tiny little channel. And if you want to see what PlayStation 1 games I have to talk about for you today, just hang up for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so as I mentioned in the open, this is my video game series where I talk about those hidden gems you need to keep your eye out for when you're out there looking at old games, whether they be loose, in the case, missing the manuals, all that stuff, etc. A lot of this stuff is still worth money in however you can find it, provided it still works in most cases. A lot of times you still will need a working copy for it to get you that full value that you're looking for. Now, with that said, PlayStation 1 is going to be our focus today, and PlayStation 1 were all discs. So this was PlayStation's first foray into the gaming system. I mean, everybody loves their PS5s now, but in the original form, their CDs had those black backs, and they were all CDs. So no carts here, no cartridges. So you might be able to find CDs in an old CD booklet, wherever you might find. As I said, you go to a yard sale, you think they're selling you old, Pearl Jam CDs in a CD case. There could be video games inside there. So make sure you open it up, take a look, just to be sure, because there's a big difference between, well, even some old music CDs are very, very collectible. So I shouldn't discount that either. But that's another show. We'll talk about that some other time. For today, check those CD booklets for video games, most specifically old PlayStation 1 games, because there might be some hidden gems, some treasures in there that you didn't know were this valuable. Starting off with, well, I'm a fan. I always try to work in a Castlevania where I can. So yes, we've talked about this game before as well, and I think we've talked about the cartridge versions, but even the PlayStation 1 Castlevania Symphony of the Night CD is valuable if you could find it. The CD alone, if you can find it, could still get you, solid 71 bucks. I mean, that ain't too bad just for a CD that you might pay $1 for or $2 for or whatever they might be charging at that flea market table or, garage sale or wherever you're finding this thing. You never know. You never know. But 71 bucks just for the game alone. Now, if you find it with the case and the manual, so it's in, remember a PlayStation should come in little CD cases. So that's all you need. Is the CD case and the manual. We can consider that complete in box. That'd be about $100. If it were still, sealed with the, plastic wrap, all wrapped around it nice and tight with the whatever, stickers and price tags on it, that's 232 bucks. But I know at this, at this stage, finding still brand new sealed games isn't that easy, and they're generally going to be expensive anyway. But you never know. Just because somebody has it sealed and you think it's expensive, well, they're asking 50 bucks. Well, if you can get 232 bucks for it, that's still a good value. So it's still good information to know that a sealed copy for this particular game, and this is the greatest hits version, mind you. This is a greatest hits version, which was PlayStation's kind of like reissue, remark, redo. So some of these are like second issues. So the greatest hits is a whole separate genre of collectability, and you'll see why as we get later on in the show. But I wanted to kind of start us off here to plant that seed in your head that just because it's a greatest hits game does not mean it's worthless. Just because it might have originally been found on a Walmart rack for a discount price, this might only started at 20 bucks because it's a greatest hits game. It was discounted down to 10 bucks. Doesn't mean that now, today, it isn't very expensive to go and find one, and it isn't collectible. That's the point here. Now, just to remind you about the game, just to give you a sense of it, yes, it was an old school classic Castlevania game. I mean, graphics are a bit better here than an original 8-bit Nintendo or even a Super Nintendo, but you get the idea. So you got the whip, you got a Belmont, you got a Dracula. What more do you need? It's Castlevania. after all. Now, with that said, that was our first option. Our next option is going to be another disc that you should keep an eye out for. It's actually 2 discs you should keep an eye out for, because this game is a Square Enix game. It's an RPG that did come across on 2 discs, so you kind of need both to make sure you get all the money that you deserve for it. Here's disc 1. Again, nothing flashy. The disc itself, it just says Xenogears, and it just says disc 1 on it. And then the same deal with disc 2. It's just Xenogears, and it's disc 2. But if you did have both discs, you got yourself $103, because this is a game that a lot of old gamers still want to go back and play if they possibly can. So $103 if you could find just the discs alone. You find the manual in the case, $113 for yet another Gaming Greats. So this is a greatest hits Gaming Greats type of game here. So keep that in mind as well. That green border is what you're looking for, those greatest hits. That's what we're talking about here. Just because they may have come out at a discount to start doesn't mean they're not hard to find and collectible. So $113 in the case, still sealed. It's almost $200. So again, I'm not counting that you're going to find the sealed ones, but if you can find the case and the manual along with those discs, you got yourself a few extra bucks. And like I said, classic Square Enix RPG. You got, a lot of fun storylines here. I mean, remember the old days? We had to actually read all that text. Like, we actually had to read. There were no cutscenes. I mean, there was cutscenes, but by and large, a lot of the information was translated to us via this text with a picture. And then we have the whole, we have your whole party aspect, turn-based fighting, I guess. A lot of fun here. I used to love these old school RPGs. Now, with that said, let's see what we got next. And our next one is another gaming franchise and another gaming legend that I love working in wherever I can. And yeah, it's a Mega Man. So Mega Man Legends 2 on the PlayStation. It's a much different animal than the original Mega Man game that I used to cover on all the other shows. All those NES games, it's a lot different here. But keep an eye out for this disc. For this disc alone, could get you $75. $75 because Mega Man has his fans. And if you can find the case, and the manual, here you go. You're looking at a few more bucks. It's $145 there. Still sealed? Well, $280. So obviously you're going to get a huge premium if you still find it sealed. But again, that's just information, just in case. If you're lucky, your best bet is to find that complete in box with the manual, or complete in case with the manual. $145 would be the top end of what you could get. But even if you just got that disc, $75 ain't bad. Again, this is a different angle. This is like a 3D, more of an open world take on Mega Man. So it's not the same, side-scrolling, level-based game that you're used to. But still, it is Mega Man, and there's still a lot of collectors and people who want to go back and either play this or just add it to their collections. So with that said, we've got 3 down. We've got 7 more to go, thereabouts, I think. So let's not waste any time and check out what I got for you next, which is the Namco Museum Volume 5. Volume 5. Now, PlayStation and Namco, they used to gather up all these old school arcade games, compile them all together, and then give you out into volumes. This is actually Volume 5, which, if you find, this is $110. If you could find this disc alone, it's $110 for this Volume 5. If you find the case in the manual, yes, $145, which isn't too much more. So it's really the game alone, more so than anything else. But if it were sealed, $379, because that's going to be a much harder find to still find one sealed. But in here, again, it's classic games. You got Metro Cross, Baraduke, Dragon Spirit, Pac-Mania, and The Legend of Valkyrie. Most of the screens I grabbed here were from the Pac-Man game, but you can see here from the screen select, you got all those options there, and then we got Pac-Man Fun. It was a collection of games, an anthology of sorts. So you got 8 games for the price of 1. But if you're paying today's prices on this collectibles price, you're paying for all 8 of those things. With that said, let's keep it rolling and see what I got for you next. I've got the first installment of Tales of Destiny, another Namco RPG. Well, it's Namco again, but this is another RPG-based game. If you find the disc alone for this game, you're looking at about $85. So $85 ain't bad for this. Here's the case. If you can find the case with the manual, $154. Also a nice return. If it were sealed, well, now you're looking at over $500, $521 if you can still find a sealed copy of this Tales of Destiny game. A lot of fans of this. You can see this is only one disc game, which is kind of rare for a lot of those RPGs on the PlayStation 1 to have only one disc. I mean, like Final Fantasy 7 was what, 2 or 3? And you saw Xenogears was a pair. A lot of these games are going to be cross multiple discs, which, you know, love it or hate it, that's what we had to do when we were younger. That if you wanted those huge epic-based games, you needed more space than one disc would provide you. Now, give you a sense of the game here. You can see, again, it was more like a turn-based kind of fighter here with the RPG elements, etc. But a lot of people still love this stuff. I love the Japanese RPGs, you know, standards. It was a lot of fun. It gave you a lot of thought. You had to strategize. You had to figure out what to do. You had to figure out who was going to be the healer this round, who was going to do this, who's going to just defend. Is it worth taking another shot, or are you going to get killed if you take that shot and you don't heal up? It was all strategy back then, and they gave you some time to think, as opposed to all the quick release and quick reaction time. I'm much more of a thinker, especially today. If I was to play a game, I need to play something that is more cognizant of me not being quick reaction, because I'm getting older. I don't have the same reactions that I did when I was a kid, and nobody does. Everybody gets older. Now, with that said, this series got older, and this series got another installment, and this had multiple discs. This isn't even the first disc. I just found the cleanest images I could find. This is disc 2. There is a disc 1. There's a disc 2, as well as a disc 3. If you find the discs, you're looking at $146 for this sequel. So once again, a little harder to find something like this because you got to buy multiple discs to get the whole game, but $146 makes it worth your while. If you can find the manual in the case, even more worth your while. It's almost $220. If it were still sealed, well, then you're really, really lucky. And again, you're looking at almost $500 again, where the last one was over 500. But still, 3 discs on this game, Tales of Destiny 2. Some upgrades, better graphics, but continuing on with that similar kind of vibe and layout that you're used to. So again, classic RPG action on the PlayStation 1. Cool. Moving on. I think we're halfway through at least. This is a little bit of a different game, but also in the same kind of, I guess, same kind of avenue, same kind of venue as the last few. Persona 2, Eternal Punishment. Now, this is the game disc. There was a bonus disc available with this as well, but I think the game disc alone might be enough. But keep an eye out for that bonus disc too, because you might need it to get yourself that full $173 that this disc can get you. Now, if you want the case too, well, now you're looking at $343 for this classic game. See, the game itself is only one disc. The bonus stuff is not necessary, but it will probably help you get these premiums if you could find them. And if you could somehow find it sealed, well, now you're looking at $650. So $650 for this classic game. This Persona 2, this was more of one of those, I think it was more like I don't want to say it was choice-based. That's the word I was looking for. It's one of those early kind of a choice-based games. You had a lot more dialogue here, and it was more telling a story than the action per se, more than anything. So still, classic stuff. Very, very expensive if you can find it. So Persona 2, keep your eye out for it, because you saw the prices on those things. Just the disc, and if you can find the case, etc. Now, moving on, got another one for you. In more of that same kind of avenue here, we got the Clock Tower 2, The Struggle Within. So this is another kind of leaning on the edge of the horror angle of games. $172 if you find this disc. $172 just for this disc, because this is, again, it's classic. It's classic. 1998 this came out for the PlayStation 1. And if you still got the manual and the case, you're looking at $370 for this one. So Clock Tower 2, yeah, even the manual there is kind of creepy. And if you find it's still sealed, well, you're looking at over $500. So once again, huge premiums if you can find them sealed, but still big numbers if you can find the case and the manual. Once again, going into this, it's more horror based. You got this creepy little ghost girl, and you got I don't know what's going on. Is that body parts laying on the table? I don't even know. There was bodies laying around all in this game. This is a creepy thing to be going through, but not the creepiest game ever. But still, not creepy nonetheless. I might argue that the next game here was one of the creepiest games I had played. I know the series got better as it went along, but even just the basic idea of that first one, and the game I'm talking about here is Silent Hill. And with Silent Hill, just the whole idea of that radio, and then just it just meant something was coming near. It just created anxiety in you, and it just really weirded you out. Especially if you played this game in the dark, and then the game was dark, and then you got into those dark areas of the game where there was no lights, and all you had is a flashlight, and you just hear the sound of the radio that something was getting near, and you're moving your light around trying to see if you can find it, and then you see something kind of coming at you, but it's not very clear because you're only working with a little flashlight. It created a lot of anxiety, and that kind of tension really made the atmosphere playing this game something special. That said, Silent Hill, the original game on the PlayStation 1, if you find the disc alone, you're looking at $130. Not bad. If you find it with the case and the manual, still decent. $215 for the original, the OG game. If it was still sealed, you're getting a huge premium here at $699. And I know there's a whole grading games side, hustle that a lot of people have. I'm not into that. I'm just not into grading games, but I get it. And I'm sure if you had a sealed copy, that's something you might think about and something you might consider. But then again, I don't know all the rules. I don't know if they grade the sticker or what they grade. Who knows? I mean, I'm just saying, who knows? I don't know personally. That's outside of my wheelhouse, so I'll just leave that there. Point being, these are the prices for these things in these varying stages of if it's just the game, if it's the game with the manual in the case, or if it's still sealed. Those are the prices. Now, just to remind you of this game, again, the creepy atmosphere. Yes, the graphics are nowhere near where they are today, but just that original, just haziness, the fog, this uncertainty, and like I said, just the sounds, it really created a lot of tension. Now, I mentioned early on that this was not just about these original games, but also the gaming greats, these reissues that also came out. So up next, we do have the gaming greats version, the reissue of Silent Hill as our last edition here. So slightly different on the disc, as you can see here. It doesn't look like you don't see the ghosty person so clearly. It's more of just the black discs here, but it's still the same price. Same price as the OG, $130. Now, what the case is going to look like, you're going to look for that green stripe. Again, you're going to look for that green stripe on it. And if you did find it with the green stripe and that version of the game, you're looking at $200 with the case and the manual. Still sealed, still expensive at $550. So whether it's the OG or even the reissue Gaming Greats version, a lot of these are very valuable. And once again, still same game inside. Like you still get the same guts of things inside. And yeah, you got the creepy nurses and all that classic stuff that you remember from this game. Again, still skeeves me out when I think back on some of those nights I played this game. Now, with that all said, those were a handful of, actually 2 handfuls. So we had 10 games in there this time out for you to look at. But I still got one more for you. Now, this one last one I saved for you is always going to be something that's extremely hard to find and usually very, very expensive. So this would be considered the Gaming Ghost. You guys are familiar with my Chasing Ghost show over as far as comics go over on my main channel, Renovision. That's kind of the same angle with this Gaming Ghost here. This is a game that just doesn't come up very often and is very difficult to find and is a holy grail for many collectors, for those video game collectors out there. So what game am I talking about here? Well, it's NFL Blitz 2000. Kind of calling back to my last video game show where I covered all those football games. I know a lot of you didn't check it out. It's still football season. You still got time to check out that football show, so go take a look at it on the channel. But NFL Blitz 2000, just the disc for this version of it. Now, this is the Gaming Greats version, so the disc on this is different. There is no picture image of the game. I believe on the regular issue, it's got the same picture as the cover box. But here on the Gaming Greats version, it's just the black cover, or the black CD version. This thing can sell for over $1,000 for just the disc alone. Yes, $1,000. Telling you, collectors collect. They will pay. They will pay for something they're looking for. And this would be the case that you would be looking for, the manual you'd be looking for with it. The NFL Blitz 2000 with the green stripe. Again, it's the Gaming Greats version, the reissue version, not the OG original. It is just specifically this version because this is supposedly one of the least printed games of the time. So there aren't a lot of copies out there, which is why it is very collectible amongst people who collect video games. And why, if you found one complete with the case in the manual, it's $2,500, which is the same price as if you found one brand spanking new, still sealed. $2,500. $2,500. So know this cover. You never know. You can stumble across this God knows where, out in the middle of nowhere, and you might have found $2,500. So, with that said, I'm sorry I didn't grab snapshots of the game. I have the old Mickey game still in here from the football episode, so pay no attention to the Mickey slides, but you get the idea. It's the gaming grades version. It's the green borders, what you're looking for. That would be the holy grail for many if you could find it. So, with that all said, that's all I got for you. So until next time, I got plenty more options and many more things we can talk about as far as gaming hidden gems go. This was just PlayStation only, and there's still plenty of more PlayStation games that are still pretty valuable that I didn't cover here, and even a few more ghosts that we can get to. So maybe we'll tackle this subject, if you guys like it, a little bit further down the line. But with that all said, I'll be back soon with some more content, and I'll see you all later. All right, bye.